thank you so much for joining our video today. And there's so much confusion out there about what an emotional support animal is. And that's why I called our Director of Education and Outreach, Sherry Horbas from Southwest Fair Housing Council, to help us out clarify that question. So without further ado, Sherry, please go ahead.
Hi, welcome, and thanks you guys all for joining with us today. We're going to answer some of those quick questions that we get quite often in our office. And one of those is, what does an emotional support animal look like? How does that look? How do we know if we've got an emotional support animal? When you see my Aliman, my gator, and I tell you he's my emotional support, or my kitty cat, or my little lizard there, or even my little rat with his little teddy bear, can my capuchin monkey be an emotional support animal? Well, all of those, you're going to find out the answer is yes as we go through this short video. And of course, it wouldn't be a real video if we didn't have Pretty here, who's sporting her glasses, and of course, my emotional support fish. We'll talk about him too. All right, what makes an emotional support animal an emotional support? Or sometimes you'll hear the initials ESA. Well, I just want you to know that this that I'm going to talk to you about doesn't matter whether it's a cat for an emotional support, or a piggy, or a little bunny rabbit. Any one of these animals, if they are under the person who is defined as disabled, and they're asking their housing provider to make an exception to the rules and allow them to have these animals, then there's a process that they have to follow. So remember I said those animals can be for those that are defined as a person with a disability. And that definition, in short, says, hey, if you have a physical, sensory, or mental condition that substantially limits one or more major life functions, then federal law says you can ask for a reasonable accommodation in housing. And what that means is this is the request that you're going to give the housing provider that says, hey, we need to make a change to your policies and procedures because I have this animal for my emotional support. And these requests, these are known as reasonable accommodation requests. Now, you'll have to come check out the class some more, but we like to refer to these animals, any animal really that you see that has that's for a person with a disability need. We like to talk to them as qualified animals. That's the term we use. The reason for that is if you see all these particular terms coming on the screen, whether it's a service animal, assistive animal, companion, therapeutic, therapy, comfort, emotional support, or even maybe a restricted breed for your disability, those animals, if they're for a person as defined, will not be subject to all the pet rules. So it's important to know that when we're going to talk about animals, like our snake there, if I can show documentation that says, hey, I need that little rat in my arm there, that helps me with my depression. As long as I can let the housing provider know I need it, that's going to be the first step. All right, so the next question we get a lot about is, hey, can those housing providers ask for documentation, and who has to fill that out? How does that work? Well, when we talk about disabilities, if the disability itself is not readily apparent, what they call readily apparent, meaning that you can't see it, then the housing provider can ask for documentation. But is what they're asking and how they're asking that they need to be careful. And our suggestion is, if they can't see it, they can say, hey, Sherry, get me something from a healthcare provider, which states the nature of the disability and how the request is connected. Now remember, not all disabilities are visible. I can come to a housing provider, and even though they can't see my disability, if I give them this notice, something from my healthcare provider that spoke to the nature of my disability, and I can show how the request is connected, then they need to stop and take a breath and consider that. Now, when we talk healthcare provider, another mistake that made out there is people are thinking that the healthcare provider has to be from the medical field, and it does not. A healthcare provider is a third person in the position to know about the nature of the person's disability and can speak to how the request is connected to that disability. A healthcare provider can be a clinical social worker, a case manager, a peer support group, a rabbi, a sponsor. It can be other people that are not in the medical field. Remember, it doesn't have to be from a doctor, and there's only two things they can ask for. That is the nature of the disability and how the request is connected. So if you think you're being discriminated against in housing, or you think someone you know might be discriminated against in housing, please be sure you reach out. We offer plenty of free classes. If you're interested in having a training at your site, be sure you reach out. And other than that, that's a few minutes on how and what an emotional support animal is. Back to you, Edith.
Thank you very much. And just like Sherry said, you can see our website right there and our links to our classes and also our phone numbers. All of our services are free, and we are eager to help in any way to help eliminate housing discrimination. Once again, thank you so much for joining in our class.